Episode 183 of the Interpretation Station is called to order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? I'm back again. You're seeing me a lot of this face these days. I have to apologize for my state of attire today. I always treat myself once a year in the summer to a tops-off Interpretation Station episode. It is about 40 degrees outside. I am keeping myself very much into the corner of the screen here. It's the British football hooligan look. Once a year, I can treat myself. You know, I even have the haircut for it currently. So this is like the second part of, we've got this Wham Bam, thank you for the land marathon going. So we had Russian yesterday, and then again we've got a French statement for you today. Again, going to keep this one under 20 minutes. I managed 16 minutes with my Russian episode yesterday. The episode we have today for you today, it's quite a technical statement. It was delivered by Luxembourg. I'm not entirely certain of the date of it, unfortunately. So what you'll find in the description box, well, I'll certainly put a copy of the transcript in the description box for you. I may have to get my daughter to read out the statement. She's got excellent French. I don't know if she's got exactly Luxembourgeois French. It's more like sort of Swiss French, Vaudois French. But I might have to get her to read the statement out so that you can practice it. But we'll find something for you anyway. Now, there's a lot of climate, there's a lot of environmental vocab in this statement because it's delivered by the Minister of Environment, Climate and Sustainable Development. There was a few words in this that I didn't know that I learned. So it's not a long text; it's like a couple of pages long. But there's some really good this technical vocab there that's very helpful if you ever do meetings. I don't know, at UNEP or anywhere, any meetings discussing the SDGs. Very quickly to remind you, I've done when it comes to the SDGs, I've done a full review of the SDGs, 3 episodes worth. I will put. I'll put a link up there in the top corner so that you can go and watch those 3 where we just break down all the main vocabulary that's in the SDGs. And I've also done quite a few statements taken from various climate conferences. More recently, there was a meeting of... I was at the UNFCCC meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh in November, so I took some from there. So there's no shortage of good stuff there with all that sort of climate change, environmental vocab. Anyway, if I'm going to keep this to below 20 minutes, we'd better get started, right? So here we go. Here's our statement. And like I did yesterday, like I do with Wham Bam, Thank You Land episodes, I'm just going to first of all just go through the main vocab that you'll see here. I've made notes here on the pages, and I'm just going to go through those vocab notes that I've made, explaining to you my decisions, explaining my suggestions, why I've chosen those solutions. And at the end, I'm just going to whiz through it as a quick sight translation to see how I might do it if I was in the booth. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing I've just noted here, doit recevoir toute notre attention. Now, you can say it should receive our full attention, but just suddenly occurs to me in English, might we say it should occupy our full attention? This is an alternative. Does that sound slightly better English? I'll leave that one out there for you, okay? Nos objectifs de développement durable. Okay, those are les objectifs de développement durable. They are, of course, the Sustainable Development Goals, which you can, of course, call the SDGs. Moving on. In brackets here, I've put these brackets when there's something you can skip. So here you could just really say we all have a collective obligation to live within the limits of the planet. You don't need that you don't need to say which consists of living. And if you don't have a statement, those kinds of things can really make the difference, all these little edits. And here I would put a full stop after our planet, because donc la mise en œuvre de l'agenda 2030, it's like a new sentence. Like, I think just make your life a bit easier. End it there and then just start a new sentence. You can probably just drop the donc and just say implementation of Agenda 2030 and its SDGs are very important. Actually, now here's a word, an interesting vecteur très important that I didn't actually make a note of, but I think, vecteur. I would maybe say vehicles. Could we maybe say springboards? They're very important springboards for diversifying. That sounds a bit fancier than vehicles. I wouldn't say vectors. I don't know. That doesn't sound very English. springboards, launch pads, maybe. Okay, sobre en carbone. Now, this is, I've only learned this expression quite recently. I think I learned this a couple of months ago. Carbon sober, right? So that's how they say in French, low carbon. So be on the lookout for that. That is, I've heard that expression used quite a bit recently. Again, here I put brackets around dans ce contexte. I think if you didn't have the text, I think you could be forgiven for just going straight in with, okay, the Luxembourg authorities. Okay, une évaluation. I've just put assessment here. I always think that sounds better English than an evaluation. You're not going to get, you're not going to get sacked if you say evaluation, but I prefer assessment. Cette évaluation vise à vérifier. Again, if you're going very fast, these kinds of words, when in English you want to say tries to, seeks to, you kind of don't really need them, I think. You can just say this assessment verifies, establishes at an early stage. You don't really need to say that the seeks to or tries to establish. Okay, I think this again a little edit that can save you a bit of precious time. And because here you're going to have to throw in a word as well, le processus de décision, the decision-making process. You need to really put that making in there, otherwise the decision process again doesn't sound good English. Adéquation. This is a word I tend to come across more in Spanish actually. But adequation, but I tend to go with alignment, okay? I find that tends to be the best like-for-like solution. Okay. Afin de soutenir cette transition, le gouvernement luxembourgeois, because she's saying this quite a lot, the Luxembourg government, I would perhaps at this point just shorten this, just say our government, okay? It's a bit of a we, you don't want to be saying we too much, but I think, again, under certain circumstances, here it's pretty justified to say our government has just approved blah blah blah. I give you the 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the National Circular Economy Strategy. Élaboré, couple of solutions here for élaboré. It's a favorite word, but just don't say elaborated. Okay, say crafted, drawn up. If nothing else comes to mind, developed. Sculpted by. I'm sure there are things you can sculpt. I haven't yet had the balls to use sculpted by. Maybe like a text. You can sculpt a text, right? You sculpt a strategy. I think you sculpt text more. Anyway, craft drawn up. I've given you there. Okay, giving you the 1, 2, 3, 4 again. The innovative resource management model. Okay. And then émanant du concept de l'économie circulaire. Again, you can just use the cognate, emanate, or stem from, arise from. This is something they've started talking about a lot in the last 3 or 4 years, the circular economy. Pretty much since I started making Interpretation Station episodes, actually. You hear a lot about the circular economy. Luxembourg a l'ambition de, you could just say here, aims to, rather than saying Luxembourg, you can say Luxembourg's ambition is to, or just aims to become, une pôle d'affaires. So I'm happy with just saying pôle, a major pôle for circular issues, or a hub. I think hub is also a good synonym. S'engage à un développement. My sort of standard solution for s'engage is committed to, commits to developing specific solutions, pledges to. I like committed to anyway. Fiche de données, okay, now they give you the actual English. She says l'initiative du product circularity data sheet. So, and then she says fiche de données. So that's an important little bureaucratic thing to know. Okay, data sheets. These are important when you're looking at things like vehicles. Every vehicle, for example, has a data sheet showing, what speed it can go at, what its horsepower is. I don't know, all the basic parameters of a given machine or whatever it happens to be. So it's good to know a data sheet for fiche de données. Moving on, ne se limitera pas seulement. Now, you could say it will not just be limited. The future legal framework won't just be limited, but I think in English we'd like to say it won't just be confined to. I think that just sounds a little notch better, notch higher register than limited to. Okay, now this I didn't know. Okay, la mise en décharge. I sort of thought about it for a bit. What do we do with déchets ménagères, household waste, landfill? So they want to ban landfill of household waste. I think that's why I've underlined it actually. So I think that's a very important word to be able to recognize, put into English. Il est prévu de, that's a sort of common French expression, isn't it? You could say, so I put here, the plan is to, maybe you could say we plan to, I think that covers it perfectly well. Okay, then we've got some, again, some quite technical vocabulary. Réemploi, okay, that's reuse, okay? That's specifically reuse here when we're talking about environmental issues, recycling or whatever. D'une manière très conséquente, on a wide scale is perhaps how we would say. We reuse on a wide scale, on a broad scale, on a wide level. And now, I don't know why exactly I've highlighted this. It's just that it seems such an unusual thing to talk about in a UN statement. Service de livraison de repas à domicile ou à emporter, home or takeaway delivery service. I think I forgot meal, home or takeaway meal delivery service in there. Uh, so it's always good to know, yeah, if you're a native English speaker, that's how you would say that, right, in French. Livraison de repas à domicile ou emporter. Home or takeaway delivery service. And again, along similar lines as réemploi, reprise doit être réemployable ou faire l'objet d'une reprise. Now, I think that's about return. You hand it back so the product can be recycled. I think. If you've got a better solution for reprise in this context, please do put it in the comments. But that's my impression that it's talking about return. Luxembourg s'est doté d'une loi. I would just say Luxembourg enacted a law or adopted a law. I don't think we acquire laws. I mean, often said doté to something, you talk about acquiring, but here I don't really like it. Mesdames, Messieurs, if I was going fast, I would drop ladies and gentlemen. I would just say we must respond to the climate emergency. Okay, again, gouvernement luxembourgeois. Again, I put that in brackets. We know we're talking about what the Luxembourg government is doing. I don't think you need to repeat it. Le PNUE is the United Nations Environment Programme, so that's an important acronym to recognize that you will hear sometimes in French. Feuille de route, roadmap, okay, another important expression you hear all the time in lots of different contexts. Des opportunités tangibles, I don't like concrete opportunities, concrete solutions. You know, you can get away with it probably, but I think tangible sounds better. Avec l'implication de toutes les différentes parties prenantes. My sort of go-to for implication is engagement. I think that sounds nicest in English. You could say the involvement or the participation, but I think engagement perhaps best is the best rendering for l'implication. Partie prenante, stakeholders, this may be obvious to some of you who have experience working in the industry for a longer time, but maybe newcomers, this is a very important, newcomers, people who've just graduated, it's a very important word to be able to properly render. Partie prenante are stakeholders, okay? And then just lastly here, qui donne de l'espoir. Okay, you could say which gives hope, but do we talk maybe in English a bit more about offering hope? It was just an idea to jazz things up. Okay, so that's the interesting vocab here. So I'm just going to whip through this now as a sight translation. So hold your horses, rev up your engines, and here we go. President, Executive Secretary, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, protection of our natural resources must occupy our full attention in this post-COVID era in order to achieve our sustainable development goals. Global pressure on resources is engendering a degradation of biodiversity and climate ecosystems and is affecting the whole world. Oh, by the way, I don't know why I skipped that, but look, I just put engendre. I think you can just go, but with the cognate, and degradation. Okay, that's important. Degradation. Don't play around with it. Don't say deterioration of ecosystems. I mean, in English, they very much talk about degradation of ecosystems, of soil quality. So that's again a cognate that you can safely use in this context. I will continue. We all have a collective obligation to live within the limits of our planet. The implementation of Agenda 2030 and the SDGs are very important springboards for diversifying our economy and moving towards innovative, inclusive, circular, sustainable, and low carbon consumption models. The Luxembourg authorities have just decided to implement a sustainability assessment for new industrial projects coming to Luxembourg. This assessment verifies at an early stage in the decision-making process the alignment of the project with Luxembourg's SDGs, in particular with available resources and climate goals. To support this transition, our government has just approved a national circular economy strategy Crafted by the Ministries of Energy, Economy, Finance and Environment, the strategy is based on an innovative resource management model combining blending, could be blend perhaps, waste management with biological and technological cycle approaches stemming from the concept of the circular economy. Luxembourg aims to become a major hub in circular issues and is committed to development of specific solutions linked to data management. The Product Circularity Datasheet Initiative on Circularity of Products, launched by the Economy Ministry, is a powerful tool in that regard. This initiative is being developed as an ISO standard. The future legal framework for waste and resource management in Luxembourg will not be confined only to implementing community goals, but goes well beyond. Luxembourg seeks to prohibit landfill for household waste starting in 2030, and combating plastics and microplastics is a priority. The plan is to promote reuse on a wide scale, and this independent of the material used, as well as cups, plates used as part of home or takeaway meal delivery services, will have, from 1st of January 2024, be eligible for reuse or return. In 2020, Luxembourg adopted a climate protection law with the goals of reducing by 2030 55% of our emissions and being neutral at a climate level by 2050 at the latest. We must respond to the climate emergency. I think l'urgence climatique, I think is climate emergency, by investing in the natural capital of our planet, based on close cooperation between the government and the UNEP Financial Initiative, which has led to the publication of a roadmap for the financial sector. The government recently launched its strategy for sustainable financing for Luxembourg. This strategy pursues the main goal of supporting the financial sector in its transition towards sustainability with tangible solutions and opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, with the engagement of all the different stakeholders, we can together transform our society towards a resilient, circular society which protects the climate and biodiversity, and which offers hope to future generations. I thank you. And I, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. If there's any new vocab that you have learned or any other suggestions that you yourselves have, please, I do love hearing suggestions from you. Please do put those in the comments. As usual, like, share, and subscribe if you have learned something new, or if you haven't. Come on, you must have learned something new from these 17, 18 minutes or so. Please let me know. Come on, it cheers me up no end. And that's pretty much all for today's episode. There'll be many more to come. As I say, I'm on my summer holidays now, so I have quite a lot of free time, and I do like making these episodes, hopefully sharing some of the little bit of knowledge that I've acquired in my years at the UN. So I hope you enjoy the Interpretation Stations product. I'll stop blethering on at this moment. It's time for me to go and catch some more rays, and all that remains to be said is that episode 183 of the Interpretation Station stands adjourned.
The train is now leaving the Interpretation Station. We hope you enjoyed your visit. Until next time, folks.